Okay, earlier we wrote this simple program to display the list of even numbers between 1 to 10 using a for loop. And I told you during the slides that you can write the same code with for, while, or do while loop. So now I'm going to write the same program using a while loop. Okay, before we get started, I want to comment out this code. Okay, first let's declare a counter variable. So I is 0. While I is less than or equal to 10. Now our condition. We display I on the console if it's an even number. And here we need to increment I by 1. So this is the exact same code, but written using a while loop. Now in this case, I prefer to use a for loop for this scenario, because typically we use the for loop when we know the number of times we would like to do an iteration. So it's cleaner to declare that counter variable like I when we are declaring the for block, as opposed to outside the while loop as we have here. Okay, now you might be wondering, when do we use the while loop? Well, there is no hard and fast rule, but typically it's better to use a while loop when you don't know ahead of time how many times you're going to do an iteration. Let me show you an example here. So first, let me clean up this code. We want to write a simple echo program. In this program, we're going to display a message on the console asking the user to type their name. If the user types their name, the console is going to repeat or echo that name. But if the user simply presses enter without typing a name, the program is going to terminate. So in this case, we don't know ahead of time how many times the user is going to use the program. How many times are we going to echo? In that case, it's better to use a while loop. So how do we do that? So in this case, we're not going to have a counter variable. So instead, what I'm going to do, I'm declaring a while, and in the condition, I'm just going to use true, which means this loop is going to execute forever. Let me display a simple message on the console. So console.write. This time I'm going to use the write method instead of Readline. The difference is the cursor is going to be on the same line. We're not going to have a line break. So type your name. Let me run this program and see what happens. So you see this program is executing forever because that while loop is not terminating, and the program keeps displaying type your name. So let me terminate this. So at this point, we need to read something from the console. So we use console.readline method. And this method, take a look at its signature. So I remove the parentheses. I open it again. Look at the tooltip. This method returns a string. So we can store the result in a string, call it input. Now, if the user simply presses enter and do not type a name, that input is going to be an empty string. And if that's the case, it's the time to jump out of the loop. So, to check if a string is empty, we often use string.isNull or white space method. This method expects a string and returns a Boolean value. So if input is null or white space, then this condition is true, and then at this point, we're going to break. And with break, we jump out of a loop. Otherwise, if that does not happen, we want to echo the name. So console.writeLine echo, and now we're going to append the input here. Let's run this application. So type your name, Mosh, echo Mosh. Note that the program continues execution. So this time I type John, and it echoes John. Now this time I'm going to press enter, and the program terminated. One of the questions beginners ask me is, how does this press any key to continue appear here? I didn't write any code for that. When you run your application using Control and F5, by default, when the application terminates, the console displays that message for you. Okay, now I'm going to change this program a little bit so we can learn about the continue keyword. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply a not operator here. So if the input is not null or white space, in that case, we want to echo it, right? So let's not worry about this break. I'm going to move this console to the right line here. Now I'm going to put that break here. So what do you think is going to happen now? When we run the application, first we get this message, type your name. We type a name. Of course, it's not null or white space. We're going to get an echo, but then we get to this statement, and that causes the loop to terminate. So this program is going to execute only once. How can we change this so it can behave like before? That's when we use the continue keyword. So I'm going to put the continue here, and let me explain what happens. So at this point, after we echo the name, when the program sees this continue, instead of continuing here, it's going to continue to the beginning of the loop. So we get back here, and the condition is true. So the loop continues to execute. Let's run the program. Type your name, Mosh. The loop is continuing. Type your name, John. Now this time just press enter and the loop terminates. So as you saw, we can write the same program in different ways. Sometimes you may apply a not operator, and because of that you may have to use the break or continue. Which one is right, which one is wrong? There is really no right or wrong. You need to do your own judgment. Which code is more readable and more understandable?